On this episode of Lesrel Radio, we discuss how power operates in gyms, why concentrating authority in one person is risky, and what real structural accountability can actually look like. This is Lesrel Radio, a combat sports podcast. I'm Kelly Shinnicky.
And I'm Andrea Shinnicky. Welcome to the podcast. Hello.
Hi.
We are back.
We are. So before we get into this episode, just a really quick camp update. We are close to sold out, even with our increased capacity, and that means you should register soon.
Like very soon.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know when it will sell out, but we are getting closer, and we are at the point where registrations pick up pretty dramatically. Like I see, several a week or, every other day rather than here and there. So yeah, we're at the point where registrations always dramatically pick up in the month or two before camp, and we're 2 months out. So we're right at that point. So if you are wanting to come and you've just put it off, please register. If the fee is at all an issue, the registration fee, reach out, send us an email or a DM, and I will send you a link to the pay what you can option. We just want you there.
Yep.
It's just important that you're there. I do want to acknowledge some sponsors today. This is not everyone. We have a list on our website, but I'm going to try to do some of these intermittently. And they are individual sponsors: Molly Reese, Dan Walzer, Joe Sturm, Petra Russell, Lainey Laws, and some businesses: Alchemize, Elite Sports, LMNT. Oh, well, that's not even how you say it. It's Element. LMNT, I just read it out. Element, Salt Stick, and Slime Mold Grappling. And some local entities / community organizations that have donated to us: Newfields, Idle George, Indiana State Fair, Royal Pen, Tuttle Orchard, Giacomo's, NCAA Hall of Champions, Civic Theater, Indianapolis Symphonic Choir. And then I want to do a special shout out to Mallow Run and Total Wine, who donated very, very large prizes that will be in our raffle, like $500-$600 value prizes. So
whoa.
Yeah. So it's going to be really cool. So we're excited, and we'll have more businesses and folks to share with you in the future.
Yeah.
So before we get into today's topic, just a little bit of a warning for you. We are not talking about specific instances of harassment or abuse, but we want to recognize that there's a national conversation, right, that's happening, largely driven by the Epstein files and many of the really horrific instances of abuse that we've seen come out through that, right? We also know that within the jiu-jitsu community, a very major affiliation, a very major figure in sports has been implicated, right? And there are some very serious allegations of harm. We are not talking about those things. We're not talking about the specific harm. What we're intending to talk about today is power imbalances and unchecked authority. And this is not just among bad actors. This is with good people who run gyms too. Our question is, how do we reduce the conditions that allow the abuse to persist? But even though we're not talking about, again, specific instances, if you have, not even in jiu-jitsu or combat sports, but just in life, been a survivor of any sort of form of abuse, this could be triggering to you. We haven't done this episode for several weeks because I've had a hard time talking about it and working through my thoughts and feelings. This is tough. It's a tough time to live with this conversation. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that at the beginning. If this is too tough, you were completely valid in skipping this episode or getting into it and deciding it's not for you.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wanted to be upfront about what it is and what it isn't and our intent. I also want, even though this is a one-way street, this is a podcast, I want to say upfront that we do not want to center ourselves or the gym that we run, the jiu-jitsu program that we run. It's hard because you want to use yourselves as examples in a well-intentioned way, but that's not the point of this conversation. So we've made a commitment offline before we started this podcast to not do that, but check us if we do.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there might be some things where it's I am questioning this as a coach. How do I do better? I may have questions for you, our Lesrel community. But if it sounds like we are centering ourselves otherwise, check us on it, call us out. That's completely fine. We need to hear that feedback.
Yep, completely agree.
And so to get started with this topic and to dive into how do we reduce the conditions that allow abuse to persist, the first thing that we want to talk about is a video that we saw shared widely online.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the Keenan Cornelius video. I saw a lot of really great, well-intentioned people say the abuse has to stop. I'm not sure what the answer is. The abuse has to stop. I've seen a lot of that. And the thing that was really great about Keenan's video that I saw on Instagram, I don't know where else it may have been posted, is he talks about actual ways to do that. So we know that bad people are going to be bad people.
Yeah, there's no stopping that.
I mean, there's not, right? Like bad people are bad actors. And I think it's important to note we're not just talking about gym owners or coaches or people in positions of authority, but it could be a student in your gym. Mm-hmm. It could be a peer amongst your students. So this is just any sort of bad actor in your gym. We can't completely get rid of bad people entering our space. There are things we can do to mitigate that, but things are going to happen. This is really about how we don't have, again, the structure in place to really allow that to flourish and to address it when it does happen. And in Keenan's video, he talked about flattening the hierarchy and that is a primary safety mechanism in gyms. So what that means is, a few things it doesn't mean is it doesn't mean there's not like a lack of leadership, that they're not maybe owners or co-owners or someone that's driving the vision and mission. I mean, if you think about businesses, which is a silly example, but you have CEOs, you still have board of directors that they're accountable to, right?
Yeah.
Even in like a organization, like a large corporation. So it's not that there's not vision leadership, but there's a shared authority and there are multiple decision makers. And what Keenan talks about, and I would just encourage everyone to go find that video. I can try to link it in the show notes. What that does is it removes single authority gyms, which are inherently dangerous. Mm-hmm. And really, that is the main model I think we see in jiu-jitsu outside of really large gyms.
Yeah, because it's such a traditional way martial arts are taught and almost gatekept in that sense.
Right. So then you have one person, or maybe you have even two people, because we also see a lot of gyms that are co-owned either by really good friends or by spouses. That happens a lot too.
Yeah.
And I think this is like so normal and natural, but then that person or those people become these larger than life sort of figureheads, right? And I also think that it's not even best for learning if you really want to get into it. But to stick to the topic for today, it allows that power to go unchecked, whether it's those people abusing power or it's someone in the gym and those people not addressing the abuse of power. So just to give like some more
concrete examples.
Right. Multiple instructors.
Yeah.
I mean, really, right? So if you have the same person teaching every evening class, every morning class, that's a very that is not a flattened hierarchy. That is a very traditional hierarchy where you have someone at the top of the pyramid. Different primary coaches for different students as well. Mm-hmm. I think that happens really naturally where if you do have multiple coaches in your gym, some people gravitate toward learning from a particular person. But do you recognize that formally? Do you let that coach do the promotions? And we're going to talk about promotions separately at a different point in this podcast. But do you do that? Or is it always, the main figurehead that does that?
Yeah. Is there a shared responsibility for stripes and such? Like you said, we'll get into that later. But yeah. So how do you address pushback? Like if someone were to come up and say, this can't work for my gym, it only works for big gyms. We can't afford more instructors or no one else is qualified to do that.
Yeah. So I think that there are a lot of small gyms that are doing it. Mm-hmm. And I think that a good ethical self-check for you would be, is this actually a resource issue or is it a control issue? Are you having a hard time letting go of control? That's hard. And not because you're necessarily a control freak, but it's hard when you care and you have a vision and you're perhaps a perfectionist to delegate and let go of authority. And I'll say it's really hard as a woman in martial arts.
Yeah.
It's hard to gain that authority and then to gain it and let go of pieces of it to other folks, perhaps to men too. Mm-hmm. Really hard. That's very, very challenging. So I acknowledge that, but again, is it really a resource issue? Is it more that you're just unwilling to trust other people, or you have a fear of losing power, or you don't like not being the center of attention?
Yeah.
I think you just have to be real with yourself about that. And that's really, really hard to do. But I don't think that's true. Small gyms can do this. If you are saying, one of your questions was, what if you can't afford more instructors? I mean, can you have someone who is a higher rank who's good at teaching teach once a week in exchange for a tuition waiver?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? It doesn't have to be that they are taking a full plate of classes, but is there, there's a point where that becomes abuse if you're not paying your instructors, but are there ways that you can do things like that? Exchange of services. I think it is possible in almost all cases. It just requires letting go. And then this is the hardest thing to say to people, but I would also ask, if you can't build that accountable structure, should you be running a gym at all?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
I mean, really, this is hard for me. Like, I'm a perfectionist. So this is a hard conversation that I'm having with myself. But really, if you don't have other people that you can rely on to teach classes, if you can't build a coalition of instructors, if you can't trust people, if you feel like it always has to be you front and center, do you have the ability? Do you have the structure in place to responsibly and ethically run a gym? I would say probably not.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at with that.
Yeah. So if a gym doesn't have the structure and is more centralized, what realistically happens when someone does raise a concern?
I think we see Darvo a lot, and that's being talked about a lot now, again, with a lot of the ongoing abuse situations that are happening in this country, even outside of jiu-jitsu, but it stands for deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. We see Darvo in, I hate to compare like, you know, your well-intentioned gym owner to criminals, but we see this a lot in the criminal justice system where something like 90% plus of people who commit crimes use Darvo. It also appears in narcissists, but it can appear in people who are well-intentioned too. It is a defense mechanism. It is a natural thing that happens. It is not okay. People should be self-aware of it, either doing it or that it's being done to them. But you are not a horrible human if it is a thing that you maybe do. I think that that's hard to, I think that some people are not going to like hearing that, but it is a thing that happens. Not everyone has some intense personality disorder or they are a narcissist if they engage in Darvo. Some people, it just happens because they're scared. And so what happens again in Darvo is they deny, again, like I said, deny, attack. They make themselves the victim.
Okay.
So that's what they're doing. And it's just lack of accountability. So like I said, we see it in criminals. And it's one of the reasons we have such high recidivism rates is because they are not able to say, you know what, I actually did fuck up and I'm going to remediate and reform and fix my behavior. So it happens in gyms too. And it's really, really common in our martial arts community in gyms that have this centralized structure and they don't have the flattened hierarchy because it breeds a culture of loyalty, like a cult-like culture.
Yeah.
Hero worship. And there's one person that everyone's revolving around, or even two people, right? Like, but people are revolving around a couple central figures. And so the way that this happens, it's not always something really like horrible and dramatic, but it can be, you know, they're being dramatic, they've misunderstood something, they're actually the problem. It's just instead of looking internally and saying, okay, maybe we messed something up or we could have handled that better, it is blaming the person that has come to them with the problem. Okay. Right? It's just reversing everything and being defensive in that way. And it's to protect themselves. So I think, like, again, it's not okay, but trying to understand that it comes from a place of the person probably being afraid and wanting to protect themselves, like, it lends a little bit of a kinder view of why it's happening.
Yeah.
I just want to emphasize it's not okay.
Right.
But that's why it happens.
So then why don't people then escalate?
I mean, for that exact reason, like they either fear that, you know, I'm like the low end. It might just be that didn't really happen. You misunderstood that. He didn't mean that. He's just like that. It might be something like that where you just get kind of rebuffed, or it could actually be retaliation depending upon how intense the situation is. You might actually be afraid. They may actually make up lies about you, right? Again, and portray you as the one that caused harm.
Yeah.
It's gaslighting too. And it's really, really hard to deal with. It will make you question yourself. Mm-hmm. But it could run kind of the gamut. But I mean, that's why people are afraid. And it really impacts the entire gym because when you see it happen to other people, you know that it would happen to you too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
For sure. So that's tough.
Yeah. Scary. So why does then flattening the hierarchy disrupt this Darvo effect?
I mean, not entirely, right? But when you have multiple people, again, we have shared authority. I mean, that's just the biggest thing is you don't have one person that people are kind of floating around. You have multiple people that have shared power. So it's just harder for it to happen. You're more likely to have multiple people in positions of authority that are witnesses, you know, to the behavior, and they are less likely to retaliate because there's not the structure in place that enables them to do that. They don't have enablers.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. So even flattened hierarchy schools and such could have blind spots, right?
Right. And even healthy gyms that do have a centralized figure, because there could be gyms that are not abusing their power.
Right,
that way
of course.
Too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can have blind spots for sure.
How does changing to a position of authority get you that feedback? How am I going to get that feedback from my students?
Right. That's tough. I mean, that's something, again, we don't want to center ourselves here in this episode, but I just will say, like, that's a thing we're struggling with if people have any feedback for us. Right. But I recognize that having been a student, like there's some people who are always in a position of authority in gyms. Mm-hmm. Maybe they and their spouse start a gym, or I think we always think like, oh, black belts start gyms, but sometimes people aren't black belts when they become business owners, right?
Yeah.
But some people have always been in a position of authority within a gym. I think most of us, that's probably not the case. So we have the advantage of being students and seeing what abuse of power looks like, what bothers folks, etc. That being said, we're all individuals and we only have our own perception.
Yeah.
So we can't fully even rely on that. And then when you move into this role where you do have any sort of power and authority, I do agree that like instantly your feedback changes. You just have to recognize if you were the person in charge, people are not going to speak to you as candidly as they did when you were just a peer.
Mm-hmm.
I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it. But that is just the case. I mean, it's just the case. And we constantly ask ourselves, what are we not hearing? We also are at a very low drama gym.
Yes.
And that is not us tooting our own horn. This was a low drama gym that we inherited. We inherited this program. I'm always thinking like, what is the trick here? Like, what am I not hearing? What is going on? What are people unhappy about? So I think it's just important that you have multiple access points for that feedback. So someone may not feel comfortable coming to you or to me, especially because we're spouses. So if someone were to have an issue with, even if it wasn't with me, but they're just afraid of me for some reason, they may not want to come to you because you're my spouse.
Right. Yeah.
And they know that we're going to just talk to one another. We have multiple coaches.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to center us, but gyms that have multiple coaches, that solves that to a certain degree because there are multiple people that you can go to. If your owner is maybe different than your coaching staff, right? Sometimes you have different head coaches for multiple sports within your gym. That adds sort of a layer. If you have a structure in place where maybe you say, hey, if you're having an issue and you don't feel comfortable with the jiu-jitsu staff, you can always go to the gym owner or you can go to the boxing coach. Like you can go to someone who is a member of this leadership team and it will be addressed.
Absolutely.
Like all of these people are safe people to talk to and they will keep whatever you say in confidence. They will ensure it's addressed, etc. I think formal and informal check-ins are good too with your students and also with yourselves, right? And I also know that some gyms have like QR codes. The problem with them, I think they're great. I mean, like these are all just like things that are not individually going to resolve your issue.
Right. Yeah.
But if it just goes to the gym owner and you have a problem with the gym owner, what does that do?
Shows that you have a problem with the gym owner.
Right. So, I mean, that's the hard thing about them. It's not that they're bad, that's great. It's just one tool. And so I think the key is that you have to have multiple tools and you have to just stay suspicious at all times of your own certainty that you may be intending to do everything perfectly, but we are all fallible and we all make mistakes all the time. So if you just kind of are always optimistic yet cautious about what's going on in the gym and being open to sort of that feedback, I think that goes a long ways. But again, I think we talked about this on the last episode, like stepping into a position of authority has been challenging for both of us because we worry about these things. Mm-hmm. And I think especially as a married couple, we worry about these things. So throwing this back to our listeners, if you have feedback, whether you are a student in a gym and you have that perception or you are a business owner or a coach, we would love to hear from you.
Yeah. Well, speaking of relationships, so the importance of explicitly naming like relations with leaders, like relationships for leaders, your leadership. So, i.e., example being we are spouses. So, like naming that up front that
you're honest about it and upfront about it. Yeah, no, I think that's important too. I think that, if you are business partners, spouses, best friends, students have a very reasonable assumption that the concerns won't stay with one person. Mm-hmm. And so reporting is going to feel unsafe, even if the intentions are good.
Yeah.
So again, that's a thing that we worry about. Perception matters more than the reassurance. I can tell someone it will stay private, but it is natural that they would feel nervous about that. I think that this is a structural issue, not a personal failing. And I think that the question that we all have to sit with is like, what structural barriers exist in a gym, even when leaders are acting ethically?
Yeah.
And again, having that recognition, naming them, as you said, explicitly naming them and calling them out. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about promotions as an example of power. There are so many other things as it relates to power within gyms. And I think it's a good example to illustrate how you can sometimes deconcentrate the power and spread it amongst multiple people because it's a really big site of imbalance, right? Promotions.
Right. Yeah.
So with promotions, you really risk, I think, having one person controlling advancement. And then there's also the issue of like promotions with spouses, partners, close friends. And you as a leader may be like, well, I am acting ethically. Are other people going to feel that same sense of confidence that you are?
Right. Right.
I would never want you to give me my black belt. And it's not just about perception or what people would say. I think a thing that people don't want want to acknowledge, because it's tough and it requires some vulnerability, is that we all have subconscious biases.
Yeah.
Even if we have the best intentions. Are you, Andrea, able to genuinely, in an unbiased way, evaluate my progress?
No.
I mean, I agree. And I would say the same for you. I would say the same for people I have really close relationships with in the gym too.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that means there are some alternative models to consider.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Those models being multiple black belts involved or higher belts. So like
Multiple
almost like
coaches. Yeah.
like a panel of coaches versus one or two people who have all the power. Shared feedback. So being able to really discuss with multiple people and getting that feedback properly. And the co-op model, we talked about that once before, I think.
Yeah, Los Angeles, the Coop. And there are others.
Yeah, like that, where it really is a panel of black belts who make those decisions for promotions and progress for their students.
Yeah, I think that shared authority helps everyone. It helps the students. It also helps the instructors, so they are seen as acting in a more unbiased manner, and the integrity of the gym, right? So, I mean, I'm centering this in my brain on the students and how to be fair to them. But I don't think that it's unfair to mention that we also need to care about the integrity of the gym and how the promotions may be perceived by other people outside the gym. And I think that this has to happen in a meaningful way. I have been at gyms that do not ask the coaching staff for their feedback on particular people at all. Like, it's very centralized. And that's one way of doing it. And then I have also been in situations where all of the coaches are asked, but it doesn't matter.
Right.
I mean that, like, not to be unkind, but like if they don't actually get a real vote, if you're just taking it into account, and then, but if you ask 4 or 5 coaches what they think and they all disagree with you, do you go ahead and do the promotion?
Right.
Do you know how hard it is to say no? Because, like, again, people don't want to give away their power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When I keep wanting to, like, talk about what we're doing, but I mean, I'll just say that is something, like, I just assumed we would have that centralized with one head coach. I mean, we said at the beginning, Andrea, you're going to do all the promotions.
Yeah.
Because of the 2 head coaches, you're the highest ranked.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we should do that going forward. I mean, it was really Keenan, and it was really this video that changed my mind. So now we have to talk about that and say, if this person is getting ready for a promotion, does the majority of our coaching staff agree? Doesn't really matter if you and I personally agree. Like, we drive those conversations.
Right.
Again, like, we still have a leadership role as head coaches, but we can drive those conversations. We can check in with the other coaches. But if the majority are not in agreement, or if they feel someone should get promoted that we aren't quite ready to promote yet, but the majority, do you go by a majority wins model? I think the answer should be yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think you should trust certain people to make those decisions. And we were talking about Legion specifically offline before we started recording this podcast. You see that all the time just in their social media. Like, you actually don't see Keenan that often. And he would be a great person to promote that gym because he's the most famous person that trains there.
Right.
Right? I mean, he's Keenan Cornelius. Like, it would be so good to just push him. But you really see all of their black belts and all of their instructors and students constantly. You see, like, a wide array of different people.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do that at small gyms too.
Yeah.
You can show off your same, you may not have 10 world champions. It doesn't matter, but show off who you have and give them sort of visibility and power and influence in your gym. And promotions are just one example of that, but I think it was, like, the easiest one to kind of hang our hat on.
Yeah, I agree. So kind of leading into this next conversation, governing body, there isn't really one outside of your personal gym.
Oh, so jiu-jitsu as a sport.
Jiu-jitsu as a sport, there is not a governing body.
Yeah, no, we don't have that. That's wild. So we have the IBJJF, but it's not recognized in the same way like the American Figure Skating Association is recognized. And I was talking to, like, Andrea about this also offline before we started this. Like, if you like drama and you like figure skating, so we're in the middle of the Winter Olympics right now. Tanya Harding, I mean, when that issue happened, she was banned from figure skating for life. Well, what did that mean? She was banned from the U.S. Figure Skating Association. If that happened in jiu-jitsu, if someone was banned from the IBJJF, which I don't know if I've ever seen that. Usually they're suspended. Yeah. Right? For doping or whatever. Or for Marigali, like cussing and flipping people off. Right? Yeah. But if you're punished in some sort of way, you just go to other promotions and you do super fights elsewhere. The reason that doesn't work in figure skating is all of those promotions go by U.S. figure skating regulations and rules, right? Like, that is the governing body. So you can host your figure skating event or tournament, but there's membership required. A lot of judo, if not all, is that way too, right? Where you have to be like a member of USA Judo, I believe.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
even if it's just your local tournament. And so there's a regulating governing body. Boxing, I mean, just like name your sport. There are very few sports that are like jujitsu and that we are still so new that we don't have one governing body. My silliest example that I have to give to you is rabbits. So this is not just sports, but I'm a licensed rabbit judge. Weird fun fact, I've mentioned it before. There are only about 300 of us in the entire world. And the American Rabbit Breeders Association, of course, in the US is the dominant organization, but really throughout the world, it is, right? It's the IBJJF of rabbits. It's really like the AKC, okay? If I had my license as a judge suspended, so like having my black belt suspended, let's say, or my black belt revoked, I can't just go judge rogue on some circuit.
Mm-hmm.
Because
they won't accept it.
Well, they won't accept it. I have to be a licensed judge. So this requires all of our entities recognizing that and giving one body authority. And that's what I think is going to be really hard, but I think it really has to happen. And I haven't heard anyone talk about this yet.
No, I haven't either.
At all. And so this may be my hot take, but I think that we really, really need universal conduct standards, a disciplinary authority that works across organizations, and some sort of meaningful certification for both gyms and black belts. That could be the IBJJF because it's the closest we have. Like, why start from scratch?
Yeah.
I don't love IBJJF. If you've listened to our podcast, I talk shit about them all the time, but it is the closest we have. What that would require is a lot of humility from ADCC, from CJI, from Fight to Win, Who's Number One, and giving up some of their autonomy and power. It would require them all kind of getting together and saying, yeah, to participate in a Who's Number One event, you need to have an IBJJF membership, right? And they are responsible for discipline, certification, etc. We don't have to do that. Another option is that all of these entities get together and they create a neutral body where they all have a seat at the table from the beginning. But we need it. We need a governing body. We have it for plumbers, we have it for attorneys, there are licensure requirements. We have it for rabbit breeders and judges.
Right.
Wild. We really need it in jiu-jitsu where there is some sort of authority and governing body, where there's actual due process, really clear standards. And then also remediation and pathways back. I don't think it's just about like banning people for life and kicking them out and that. It's about remediation too. I mean, I was director of the nursing board in Indiana for a very short stint. Nurses do some wild ass things. And if they get back in the good graces of the nursing board and they do what they need to do that, they're reinstated. They get their licenses back. I mean, there are certain like hard lines for sure. People definitely get their license revoked for life, but we operate in a society that recognizes rehabilitation and remediation. So this isn't just about kicking people out for life or those really, really hard cases. It's also about just ensuring that folks are like staying on track or getting back on track too. So it's not meant to just kick people off.
Okay. Yeah.
Kick people off, kick people out, whatever. I don't think that that's actually a hot take. I just think it's the toughest hill to climb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Anything from you, Andrea?
Nothing from Andrea.
This is a tough topic. I'll remind everyone that we have a Discord that's open to everyone. I mean, obviously it's very queer friendly, but it's not queer specific. It's welcome. Anyone who listens to our podcast or just wants to be just wants to be a part of the conversation's welcome, and we can continue this conversation in there in a meaningful way. If you disagree with any of this, push back on us. If you have additional thoughts, let us know. I mean, you're always welcome to like also send us DMs or comment online, etc. That's fine too. It's just the Discord's a really good back and forth tool for communication. So we would encourage you to join and to continue this conversation because I would love to know what our blind spots are and what we didn't cover.
Yeah, I agree. All right, listener questions.
All right, we had two, and they're completely different, but from the same person. And the first one is there an etiquette on teaching stuff from a paid seminar?
I would say teaching? No, not necessarily. Maybe giving credit where you got it from, just credit where it's due. But I mean, you learn it, you teach it. That's kind of just like anything you would find on YouTube or any sort of instructional based thing. You're just teaching what you're learning.
If you can't take it and teach it, what was the point? Is it just for you to use it for personal use? Yeah, I guess I agree with you. Mm-hmm. I mean, people are weird. Not weird. I think it's totally valid. Sometimes people don't want things filmed, for example, and that makes sense because seminars are a huge part of a lot of athletes' livelihood.
Absolutely.
Right? So they don't want it filmed and put out there, and that's very valid. But you are going to learn things and use the knowledge you learned, whether that is sharing it with other people or because you might be going as a coach or you're going as a student and you're going to implement it in your game. So it just that's the point, is that you use it.
Well, that's inherently martial arts in itself. None of us are, well, I won't speak for all of us, but a lot of us are not developing new techniques.
Yeah, like we're not developing the new meta.
This is all handed down from generations.
And adapted and like made new in some ways, but it's not out of nowhere. Like we're learning from each other constantly.
That is what
The point.
that
That's
the
how it
sport
works.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very thoughtful question, though. But I think sometimes people are like, don't share this with the people at your gym and just hit them with the moves. And I mean, like, whatever, that's fine too. But I think it's nice to share information. And if anything, if you kind of are drawn to it, it's more of an incentive for you to look up that particular person or that instructor and maybe buy an instructional or go to the seminar the next time they're there. So I think it benefits as long as the person's kind of recognizing where they pull this stuff from.
Yep.
I always try, if I learned something very specific from someone, to say who it is. And I'm sure sometimes our students are like, I don't care. Why are you telling me this? It's if it does resonate with them, I want them to know the resource, and it's giving credit to the original person. Even if they didn't develop the technique, even if it's just how they taught it to me, I want them to know that source if they liked something about it specifically.
Yeah.
I hate when people act like, thing is, we all learn jujitsu from different people. So I'm not saying you have to like credit someone every time, but I do kind of hate when someone goes to a seminar and then they literally just regurgitate it in class without saying, oh, I learned that literally 2 days ago.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, like say like, hey, this is from this whoever seminar we just went to. Like just share that. Like if anything, it gets your students more like, oh, I should go to that seminar next time, or I should go to a seminar.
Yep.
So
I agree.
I think it's maybe a little bit nicer to be upfront about the source.
All right. Next question is, how much do you drill technique on both sides?
I don't.
Yeah.
0%. Not really. I mean, yeah.
Unless you're injured, then
I don't.
Okay. Well, what I was gonna say is,
You're pretty even.
I try to do it evenly, but if it's something I really don't know or it's being taught to me for the first time, I might lean towards my better side and just keep doing it until I get a better understanding.
So my only pushback on this would be, do you practice a guard pass on the same side, or do you practice it on both sides?
I would like to practice it on both sides.
Really? Because I think people always pass to their left, the person's right side of the body, almost always.
So from white belt to blue belt, I did pass from both sides, and now I heavily pass left.
Yeah. So what I would say is you should have things on both sides, but like if I'm knee cutting to the left and I go back to the right, it's probably going to be more to staple that leg or go to headquarters, right? So I think technique on both sides is more important than a specific technique on both sides. Did that make sense? Having a technique, it doesn't have to be the
Per
same.
side.
Yeah. Like,
Sort of.
I play guard with either your right or your left leg forward, but I don't play K-guard on both sides. I play K-guard on one side and I play daily heave on the other. But it has a purpose.
Right.
But I don't drill K-guard on both sides. I can play them on both sides, but I don't.
Okay. I think that's
But
fine.
it's intentional. I am trying to always stay on my right hip is the answer.
Oh, it's just the answer.
Yeah, for me. So it doesn't make sense for me to really like drill a choi bar on both sides because I am not going to get on my left hip to choi bar you on your right arm.
Yeah. Okay.
I will attack that arm, but I'm going to attack it from side scissor and do a belly down arm bar because I'm staying on my right hip. So Andrea and I disagree. My answer would be you should have stuff on both sides, but it doesn't have to be the exact same technique.
I don't disagree. White belt and blue belt Andrea did it differently than Andrea does now.
Maybe initially it's good because you don't know
Where's
what your game's going to be yet. So maybe just doing both sides is better initially.
I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it isn't, but that is what I did.
All right, it's time for our questions for each other. And my question for you is if you could learn any guard that you are not currently good at, regardless of your ability to do it, like it may not be a good guard for you in your game, your body, whatever, but just that you think would be fun to learn, what would it be?
Worm guard.
What even is that?
I don't really know. That's
Okay,
why.
Cool.
But Keenan Cornelius developed worm guard.
Okay,
Or at least
okay.
a version of it. I think he developed the idea of worm guard, or at least he gave it the name.
Okay.
So yeah. What about you?
Wow, I didn't think about myself. I think rubber guard.
Okay, yeah.
I would never be a rubber guard player, but I could see myself doing some ho shit from there. That would work with what I do currently. Might just be fun.
That was my question for you.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
I am not in the market for learning new things.
Oh, just in general at all.
in general.
If you were in the market for learning new things, would it be rubber guard, or is there something?
We just said like any fun. The question was any fun guard or anything.
This is my question.
Now, if I were to,
Yeah.
like a guard specifically,
No, anything.
does it need to relate to my current game at all?
No, not at all. Just something you really find that could be interesting.
Regardless of ability to do it?
Regardless of ability.
I actually really like wrestling.
Okay, yeah.
I know everyone is like, okay, but I do. Like,
Yeah.
I actually like wrestling, even if it is scrambles and rolls. And I don't feel like I've really been formally trained in wrestling
Me
ever.
either.
And I think that would make my jujitsu a lot better. I also think I'm really old. So, like, I get in a scramble and someone stands up and I'm like, nope. Because I'm old and I'm tired, Andrea.
I'm old and I'm tired, Kelly.
I'm broken. So, wrestling.
Okay, cool.
What about, do you need to
shit.
answer that one
I was
too?
hoping you weren't going to ask. But I would probably say wrestling as well.
I feel like you do wrestle and you know more than me.
I do wrestle, but I've not had any formal wrestling training before. I've never even done a wrestling class.
I did wrestling classes for
I
a long
know.
time.
So you've done more wrestling classes than I have.
Yeah. I mean, I was horrible at it and I still am, but
I just have a brother that was a wrestler. Well, two brothers that were wrestlers, and I've learned it in passing.
actually I say that, but like I very rarely wrestle with my jujitsu. And then when I do, I constantly get the compliment. It's my favorite compliment is your wrestling is actually really good for, well, the misogynistic version of that is for a woman. I get that sometimes, or your wrestling is good for someone who doesn't wrestle. And it's like the best compliment because I'm like, thank you. I'm so medium poor at it. I love that. I love that for me. All right. What things do we have coming up?
Well, coming up, we have the Let's Roll Queer Grappling Camp, and that's April 17th through the 19th. And we are not sold out yet, so.
Not quite. And then I think in the future we'll have some IBJJFs to add to this, but not today.
Not today.
Where can people find us?
People can find the podcast at lesrollradio.com, and you can find the podcast on TikTok, Blue Sky, YouTube, and Instagram at Les Roll Radio. And we have a Discord link in the bio. You can find me, Andrea Shenegi, at Shenegi A on all those places. And you can find Kelly at all those places at Kelly Shenegi.
I love that.
That felt like a mouthful.
All right.
Next time.
Bye.
Bye.